Welcome back to the Atlas Masterclass. Today we're making my version of a beautiful Japanese breakfast dish, and it's called Barramundi Shioyaki, and it's served with a pumpkin miso soup, some miso pickles and Japanese rice. So what we have here, we've got our barramundi, which we're going to sear really nicely, and the sort of idea of this dish is to use quite a bit of salt, and you want to get the fish like super crispy with the salt, and it will just really breaks apart. And there's a big reason when we salt it on the board prior to cooking, and you'll sort of see the difference it does make with the texture of the fish. Then we've got some sushi rice, which we're going to boil. So I might just get that straight in. So just into a pot of boiling water, and that's going to take about 10 minutes. Then we've also got some Japanese spices as well we'll put on top of the rice. We've got some miso paste, a bit of sugar, the salt, and then we also have some pumpkin, which we're going to make a soup with. That's going to go with the spring onion whites and a bit of this dashi powder. So to get cooking with this dish, we'll make the soup as one, the fish will be cooking, the rice will be cooking, and then we're going to make our pickles as well. So I'm going to start by getting the soup on. So to get the soup on, we're going to just put some of the pumpkin in. So I'm just cooking for two. So you just need to spread that out evenly. A little pot or a pan. I add in our little seasoning mix. So I add in 3/4 cup per person. And then I'm going to put that straight on. So the pumpkin and the rice are going to take the longest, probably about 10 minutes each. So I'm just cooking those first before we get the fish on. The fish, once it's cooking, it will not take long at all. And for our pickles, I get our cucumber, nice little pinch of salt, pinch of sugar, so just grab some from your pantry. And then we've also got our miso, so just using some of this for these pickles. So with this, I'm just going to marinate that all through, and the miso will just break down. The salt will pull the moisture out of the cucumber, the miso will mix it really nicely, and then very quick pickle, something that's not, if you wanted to do it another way or keep them for a bit longer in the pickle, the flavour does intensify, but it's just a really nice way of getting that sort of the idea there without having to spend too long to do it. So I'm just going to let that sit, and as the moisture comes out, that will pull away and I'll be able to mix it really, really well. So now that everything's on cooking, we'll just let the pumpkin poach, and then we'll get cooking with the barramundi. So I've wiped the skin of the fish so it's nice and dry, and I'm just going to salt the flesh side quite heavily and just letting it sitting on the board for about 5 or so minutes. The longer you do this for, the more it will improve the texture. So if you want to salt it earlier, you can. And you go quite heavy with the salt, and it really makes a difference. So leaving that there, we've got our rice cooking, we've got our pumpkin with our miso happening, our pumpkin with our dashi happening, adding the miso last, and then of course our miso pickles. So now we're going to start cooking our fish, but prior to doing that, we'll take the rice off. So just pouring that into the bowl and letting that steam. And then our pan's heating up for our fish. So with the fish, we're going to put a splash of oil in, mixing that around. And this technique of cooking fish is one that I'm really excited to teach you. So we go skin side down into the pan. Just move it around sort of as you do it to help sort of create a bit of a crust so it won't stick. And then we put something heavy on top. So a bowl or this pan, whatever you want to do, but you really want to press the fish down, which will create a lot of which will create a flat surface, so you're going to get an even crisp along the fish. And then to finish our soup while our fish is cooking, what we're going to do is our pumpkin's ready. We get the miso, put it into our ladle, ladle some of our soup over it, and we just want to mix it first. And this is just so you don't get clumpy pieces of miso in there. Just using the soup, breaking the miso down, and there we are, adding that in. And once you add the miso, because it's a fermented product, you don't want to boil it now. So you want that beautiful flavour, and like everything about fermented products is about sort of using that bacteria to create the flavour, but it's also so good for you. And that there is our little soup. We're going to add some of our spring onion whites into it. And that's a finished product there. So miso, it is salty, so you will just, that's all you need to do. You don't need to season the soup, and just leave it be. So for our fish, Gonna have a look here. So until it comes away from the pan, you don't really need to touch it, but we just want to keep checking it, don't burn it, and just keep that weight on it. So now we're gonna get ready to plate up. So to build our rice, I just fill up a little bowl or a ramekin with the rice. Just smoothing the edges down, make sure it's nice and clean. And we're just gonna go like that onto our plate. It's a nice little mold of rice. Then next we'll go with our soup. So just scooping the nice pieces of pumpkin into the bowl. We've got the spring onion. You can just smell the miso, it's so intense. It's just an absolute classic flavor combination, I love it. And that goes there like so. Then we've got our miso pickled cucumbers. So just straight on the plate. You know, 4 really good textures with this dish. So you're gonna have the rice, the cucumber, of course that little pumpkin soup. Once the barramundi's cooked, we'll be adding that. We add a little bit of our Japanese spice mix onto the rice. And when you add that on, you're just gonna mix that through and it just gives the most incredible color to the rice. And now with the barramundi, we're almost there, ready to flip. So I'm just gonna leave that on cooking for about another minute or so, and then we'll be ready to serve. So now I'm gonna flip the fish, and look at that, just perfect golden skin. And you can hear it's just got that sort of real sort of crackling almost to it. And that's from pressing it properly, the salt on the fish, and then it needs about another 30 seconds until it's cooked. Straight onto the plate with the lemon, and we're ready to serve. So our barramundi's ready now. I'm so happy with that, just perfectly golden skin, something that I hope you can recreate at home. Straight onto the plate, and just adding that lemon, of course, on top. And that is maybe the perfect breakfast dish. You're having it for dinner. It's Japanese cuisine. We've got some miso soup with pumpkin. We've got the miso pickled cucumbers, rice with our Japanese spice mix, and a perfectly grilled piece of barramundi with lemon.